When you first venture into the world of cooking, stocking your kitchen can seem like a daunting task. Today we're going to simplify all that and get you started on the right foot. I'm Derek Allen and this is Burnt Fat. So it's your first apartment, or maybe you're just discovering the world of food, and now it's time to stock your kitchen. But where do you get started? If you walk into a department store, you're just going to see this wall full of pots and pans and tools and all this extra stuff, and it's overwhelming. Or if you're watching television, you're going to see commercials and infomercials and all these things telling you to use this for this and that for that and trying to sell you all these gadgets. You don't need all that stuff. Today we're going to weed through all those options and we're going to bring it down to the bare essentials that you're going to need in your kitchen to make good food. Now there's three things to consider when you're stocking your kitchen. First up, simplicity. You want to keep it simple. As I said, commercials, infomercials, gadgets, no gadgets. Second, you want to think about durability. And this is really going to come down to research. When you're stocking your kitchen, you don't want to do it in one day. You don't want to just run out and purchase everything. You want to give it some time, a few weeks, do your research and find what's going to be best for you in your kitchen. And third, you want to think about versatility. This comes down to just imagination, basically. So many tools in the kitchen can be mixed and matched and used in different ways. We're going to show you a couple examples of that today, but really it comes down to your own imagination and getting the most effectiveness out of everything that you have in your kitchen, mixing and matching. Okay, so cost is definitely going to be a consideration when you're shopping and stocking your kitchen. We all have to stay within some sort of budget. And the first thing, beware of supermarkets. Supermarkets is so easy. You're in there shopping anyway. Why not just go to the cooking aisle and just pick up the stuff you need there? Poor quality and really high prices. You're going to be paying a lot for something that's not going to last very long. Instead, we suggest actually go and check out like a restaurant supply store. I know a lot of times it doesn't seem like they'd be open to the public, but they almost always are. So check those out. Second, go to the mall and actually check out the kitchen specialty stores. Very expensive, but the quality is so much better. So actually go in there and see prices and what you can get in there. And the best thing to do after you've checked out those two places is go online and shop around online, and maybe you'll get a better price somewhere else for a tool that you know you want and need. All right, first thing we're going to talk about are knives. Now it's so tempting when you go into a department store, you're going to see all those blocks full of all those knives. You think you need all that. You don't. All you really need are three basic knives for a well-stocked kitchen. First up, chef's knife. It's going to be your best friend in the kitchen. You're going to use this for chopping, for slicing, and most importantly, it's a good hefty knife. You can use this for heft. Next, we're going to have the serrated knife. This serrated knife right here, it's got the little grooves. This is what you're going to use for slicing bread. It also works for slicing meats. And finally, the paring knife. Now, the paring knife is just your cleanup tool. This is the smaller knife you're going to use for more precision, for slicing, when you're fabricating, all that stuff. Now, when you're shopping for your knives, there are a few considerations. First up, you want to make sure that you get high carbon stainless steel. Basically, if you're shopping, you think stainless steel is going to be fine. It's not. It actually is not going to hold the blade as well, and it will still rust on you. What you want to get is high carbon stainless steel. It'll hold a really sharp blade for a lot longer, and it'll never rust. It'll last you forever. Next thing, make sure you get a knife that fits you. So go out and test drive some knives. How do you do this? You go to a kitchen specialty store in the mall and ask them if you can try out some knives. They will let you do this. Basically, you want to make sure it feels good in your hand. The weight of it, it just feels right in your hand. And also try it out on a cutting board. See if it fits and if it feels good, kind of like going through the motions. There are a lot of options. You can get a 10-inch blade. You can get an 8-inch blade. You can actually do those the Japanese style knives that come in like a 7-inch blade. You want to make sure that this fits you. Like I said earlier, this is your best friend in the kitchen, so you want to make sure you like your best friend. All right, and lastly, it's always good to look for a knife that has the steel going all the way through the handle. Basically, that means that this handle is constructed from the same steel that is used on the blade. The handle will stay intact forever. You're not going to have to worry about it kind of getting loose or falling off or anything like that. Next, we want to talk about maintenance. You're going to want to buy a steel. This is a honing steel. Basically, when you're using your knife, just through normal wear and tear, it's going to just kind of get a little bit dull. This is a great tool to use daily in the kitchen just to kind of bring your knife back really, really sharp. All you're going to want to do is hold this at an angle and kind of keep this at an angle, about a 45-degree angle, slide down, and then alternate on the other side. Keep it even because you want to keep it sharp on both sides. Do this, like I said, daily. This will not ruin the knife and it'll actually kind of keep it really nice and sharp. If you'd like, you can also purchase a knife sharpener. Be careful with these though. Don't use these a lot. Use these very sparingly. And this will just kind of sharpen your knife for you. The best thing to do is always go to a professional sharpener, somebody out there that actually sharpens knives for a living. But if you need to, you can pick up one of these, and this will be something you can use every few months also. Let's talk about prep tools that you're going to be using in your kitchen. First up, cutting board. Basically, just make sure you get a board that you feel comfortable working on. Good size for you. You don't want something really small that you can't do anything with. Plastic, wood, people have different preferences. The major consideration is whether or not it's going to allow bacteria to grow on it. And for years they thought plastic was better. They've actually recently discovered that supposedly wood is better. It doesn't allow as much bacteria. Just keep it clean. Make sure you keep it, actually take some Clorox to it every once in a while. Just make sure you keep it really, really clean. Sanitary, sanitation, we always talk about it. Next up, we've got a colander here. Colander, strainer, same thing. With this, I would say just make sure that you get a good size colander. You don't want a little teeny tiny thing again. You actually want to be able to use this for stuff. So pasta, we're actually going to show you later on how you can use it as a steamer. And for that reason, I actually do prefer metal over plastic. I just think it's more versatile, kind of my own personal opinion. Next up, a box grater. Now when I was growing up, I had the one, kind of the thin sheet one, and it was a pain in the butt, it would bend, it was not good. This thing is so sturdy, just stand it right up. Typically they come in 4 sides. This is Phillips and it's 6-sided, but whatever. Just again, versatility here. Just different grading stages, slicing. With the slicing, you can use it for cheese, you can use it for vegetables. The different grading, you can use like the big grate right here for cheese, carrots. Some of these finer ones you can actually use for ginger. If you have fresh ginger and the skin and the pulp, if you want to get rid of all that and just get down to the good stuff, just pass it through one of these fine graters right here, and it'll get rid of all that extra stuff, and you'll be left with a good ginger juice and what you're looking for. Finally, bowls. Glass, stainless steel, I don't have a major preference. I like them both. Just be able to work in them. You want to make sure that they're a good size. Again, you don't want the teeny tiny things that you can't do anything with. A good size bowl. Just make sure you get something that you can actually use and use all the time. This is a measuring cup. Liquid measuring cup, and these are dry measuring cups. You could get by with just one or the other, but if you're going to have a well-stocked kitchen, it's worth it just to go ahead and buy some of these and get one of these. Just a 2-cup one is fine. With the liquid measuring cup, I would suggest actually getting the Pyrex or the glass. That way you can actually put it in the microwave if you need to do that, whereas the plastic ones, I just don't trust them in the microwave or a setting like that. Now, basically, you know it's liquid because it's got this little spout, and this is a liquid measuring cup, whereas these right here, they have the very flat top, so you can use it to measure flour and actually get like a very precise measurement, like with flour, sugar, stuff like that. As far as material on these, either way. I have metal ones at home. These are Phillips, these are plastic. Either way is fine right there. And lastly, you got your measuring spoons. It's good just to get a good, I prefer metal. I just think it's not as bulky. You can actually get a little bit more exact measurement. If you're baking, you want to make sure that you keep it exact. So I prefer metal. So just go ahead and get your set right here. You've got just the 1/4 teaspoon, the 1/2 teaspoon, the full teaspoon, and a tablespoon. A few other tools that you're going to use during the prep process. First up, we have a vegetable peeler. Just don't buy one of those little metal ones that you probably grew up using. They're just so awkward. You can't get a good grip. You want to get something that you can hold onto. This is a great plastic one, great grip. This one has a vertical. You can also get the wide peelers. Great thing about this also, it's got this little like shovel thing up top here where you can actually dig out the eyes of potatoes. Versatility. Next up, can opener. Again, just get something that's really, really sturdy. You don't need an electric can opener. One of these is great. Great thing about this one also, it's got this little bottle opener here. Versatility. Next, tongs. These are very important in the kitchen. You're going to find that you use them all the time. I know I said the chef's knife was your best friend, but this is definitely probably your second best friend. Just make sure that you get some that have really good spring action. Some of them come with this thing that holds it together. Some of them don't. They're really cheap. You can buy a few of these and just keep them on hand. Like I said, you'll find you'll use them all the time. And lastly, we've got the whisk. Now, you might not think that you need a whisk in your kitchen if you're just starting out, but you know what? It's really great to have a good whisk. Just make sure you do not buy these in the supermarket. You want to make sure that you do some research and get a good, sturdy whisk. This one is stainless steel. It's got a great grip. It's really, really sturdy. I got this one in school a while ago, and I'm still using it all the time. It hasn't rusted like a lot of the ones you'll buy in the supermarket have. Good stainless steel whisk. Now, the reason why you want to get a whisk, it's not just to beat eggs. You could just use a fork to beat eggs. The great thing about a whisk is it provides aeration. It kind of inflates what you're whisking. So with eggs, a fork would just kind of mix them together. This is actually going to get some fluffiness to your eggs if you're making scrambled eggs. If you're whipping cream and you don't have a hand mixer, you can actually use this and quickly whip cream. What it does, it incorporates the aeration. So get a good sturdy whisk. You'll find you use it a lot. Okay, so we've got the prep out of the way, and now we're actually going to start cooking. Now, when you start looking at stuff that you're going to cook with, you're going to hear a lot of big words like saucier, brazier, Dutch oven, cast iron versus this versus that. Let all that stuff go. Basically, let's just concentrate on two things, pots and pans. Now, the pots are going to have the deep sides. You're going to think of those for liquids. Pans are going to have shallow sides, and you're going to think of these for non-liquids. Basically, when you're stocking your kitchen, this is what I suggest. Get a good, deep, big pot, a smaller pot, a good sized pan. This is an 8-inch. You could go to 10-inch. Very versatile. And my mom got one of these a few years ago. I thought it was really cool. It's a one-size-fits-all lid. It's got all these ridges. Now, typically, a pot, when you buy it, will come with a lid, but just in case it doesn't, this is pretty cheap, and it fits this, and it fits this. It's kind of versatile. Okay, now there's another consideration when you're buying your pots and pans, and that's the material that it's made out of. Now, the best conductor of heat, least risk of scorching is copper. Copper is without a doubt the best that you can buy, but it's extremely expensive. And again, we're considering our budgets here. So copper probably isn't going to be what you're going to want to buy first off. Next on the list for conductivity, the best conductor of heat is aluminum. But the problem with aluminum and most aluminum pots and pans is that they're very reactive. So if you have anything that's acidic, it's going to react with the metal, and that's just not healthy. There is a new technology out there right now called anodized aluminum. Sorry about that. Basically what they do is they actually somehow treat the aluminum so that it's no longer reactive. So now you've got this great conductor of heat. They tend to be a little bit more sturdy, and it's not going to react. So if you can afford that, they still are a bit expensive, but they're a really, really good option. This right here it's a brand name called Calphalon. And again, it's the anodized aluminum. Through the process, it also has a nonstick surface inside. Again, great conductor of heat, and you're not going to get the reaction that you would with just a normal aluminum. So this is an option, but again, it can be a bit expensive. Quite often what you're going to do is you're going to probably go to the stainless steel. Stainless steel, it's not a very good conductor, but it doesn't react. It's more affordable. So I would actually kind of aim towards a stainless steel for, budget purposes. When you actually are buying a stainless steel pot or pan, one thing you want to look for is a lot of times what they'll do is down here in this core right here, they'll actually line it inside with either aluminum or copper to kind of like enhance the conductivity of stainless steel. So you might want to look for that. Price difference might not be too much. It'll work better on your stove. It won't scorch as much. So look for that, like a copper lined or an aluminum lined stainless steel pot or pan. One thing I am going to point out is on this skillet, this is a nonstick surface. That's Teflon. I would only get Teflon for a pan, okay? There's controversy out there whether or not Teflon's healthy. I don't have a major opinion on that. I would just say for your pan, get Teflon. Next, we're going to talk about the tools that you're actually going to be using while you're cooking. First up, tongs. Like I said, we already talked about these. You're going to use them so often, so definitely get a good pair of tongs. Next, we're going to have wooden spoons. Either one or get a few. You can get these fairly cheaply. First up, I would say get a good, big, sturdy one. I'm going to use this all the time also. And it's good just to have a few of these other ones on hand. Just be careful though with these smaller ones. They do tend to splint a little bit after you use them a long time. So if you notice that they start doing that, just toss them. They're cheap enough, you can get another one. But I would say definitely look for a good, sturdy, bigger one. And this goes back to, do you prefer plastic spoons or wooden spoons? I just prefer wooden spoons. They don't conduct heat, so if I'm stirring like a really hot pot or something, I'm not going to risk melting it. I'm not going to burn my hand as easily or stuff like that. And also when it comes down to, does plastic hold bacteria or does wood hold bacteria? This is where I kind of go towards wood, just because they're saying now that it doesn't hold as much bacteria, so I think it's probably going to last longer and be a little bit safer in the long run. Whatever feels best to you. Next up, we've got a slotted spoon or a perforated spoon. This is going to be great just when you're scooping stuff out of liquids. Say you're actually like boiling or steaming some vegetables or something and you just need to get them out and drain the water right away. You're going to use this a lot also. Again, plastic or metal, either way. You might want to go plastic if you have nonstick surfaces. That way you're not going to scratch your nonstick surface. You might not think you're going to use a ladle that often, but you do. Whether you're making Campbell's and you're just scooping some tomato soup into a bowl, or you're actually going through and doing your own stock and going crazy making your own soup, you're going to use one of these quite often too. So go ahead and invest in one of these. It's going to sound silly, but make sure you got a good tablespoon. I mean, this is just one from the set we have in the drawer here, but when you're actually mixing and tasting and cooking, big thing about cooking is you want to be able to taste and make sure everything tastes good, make sure the seasonings are good. One of these on hand is perfect. You're going to use it all the time. Last, it's very important to have a good thermometer. This thing right here I got at a kitchen supply store for $2.50. It's cheap, but it's effective. It lasts, And you need this. You need this when you're cooking your meats to make sure that the meats are to temperature. Later on, you can go ahead and get one of those digital ones, but they're very expensive. This thing, it works great and it's really, really cheap, especially when you're getting started. Lastly, we're looking at spatulas. Now, this is a spatula and this is a spatula. I have no idea why they're both called the same thing. I'm sure there's some history to it. Basically, this is your flat spatula, this is your firm spatula, this is what you're going to use to flip your fried eggs, this is what you're going to use to flip your burgers. If you're going to get one of these and you're going to want to use it on a grill outside, make sure you get metal. Otherwise, plastic metal really doesn't matter. This right here, I'm going to say go ahead and spend a few extra bucks and get a silicone head right here. Basically, the silicone makes it heat proof. If you go to the supermarket and you purchase their spatulas there, I guarantee the minute that you take it anywhere near heat, it's going to melt and then you're going to have plastic and it's just not good. Stick with this right here. You can use it either in your mixing bowl all the way to using it in your pan on the stove top. Okay, we haven't forgotten about the oven, so let's talk about some ovenware here. First up, we have cookie sheet. We've got your baking pan. If you're going to purchase one thing and one thing only to get started, I would say go for your cookie sheet. Now, most of us are used to something like this, is what we grew up on. But if you do have a restaurant supply store in your area, I would suggest getting this right here. Now, official restaurant terminology, this is a half sheet tray or half sheet pan. It's made of aluminum, but the size of it is just perfect. It fits into most ovens perfectly. It's got more room. It'll last longer. It's more durable. So I would say definitely get one of these over one of these. But if you don't have a restaurant supply store in your area, just go ahead and get a good cookie sheet. Again, these aluminum ones are actually a little bit cheaper than what you're going to find most cookie sheets for. I suggest that definitely. More cost effective, more useful. Next up, we're going to have like a baking pan. And it actually is quite versatile because you could use this as a roasting pan too. Now this is just your very typical size right here. This is probably a 9 by 13. You can find this either in metal or you can also find it in like a Pyrex or a glass. I mean, perfect from brownies to cakes all the way over to, you can roast a small chicken in this also. If you are on a very limited budget, always remember that they do have these aluminum disposable ones. These things are so cheap that if you just want to get your cookie sheet to get started and hold off on getting some sort of like baking pan like this, you can always use something like this. These, like I said, they're in the supermarket. This is one thing where I will say, go to the supermarket and just get your disposable aluminum pans if you need to. Okay, so there you go. Now you've got the tools to set up your own kitchen. No gadgets. We're going to keep it really, really like down to the bare minimum, the basics. This is all you need to cook really good food. But the one thing we did talk about as we got going is versatility. Now it's time to use your imagination. Start mixing and matching and just get all these tools to work to their full effectiveness for you. I'm going to show you a couple examples. We've got our colander. We talked about the colander, and I mentioned how I like a good metal one because you can use it as a steamer. All you need to do is take your big sauce pot, put a little bit of water on the bottom, say you're steaming vegetables. Put the vegetables in here. See how it fits? Perfect. Put your lid over it, you've got a steamer. You don't need to go out and buy a steamer. Another thing that they try to sell you a lot of times is a double boiler. You can actually go out and buy a specific pot with a perfect bowl to fit right into it. You don't need that. Whether you have stainless steel, like a good metal bowl or a good glass one, you can use this with your small sauce pot. Just put a little water on the bottom. Make sure it doesn't touch the bowl though. Put that in there and now you've got a double boiler. The only thing to be careful of, if you have a ceramic bowl, don't do that. Stick with glass or stainless steel and you've got double boiler. This is your imagination. Mix, match, make everything work for you, okay? And start cooking. Have a good time. I'm Derek Allen and this is Burnt Fat.